Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to yet another edition of Sabbat Dinner Theater. We find ourselves in a place where, well, flesh crafting has been known to take place, among many other things. In a place known as Angel Sanctuary. A place currently owned and operated by Murdoch Brados, or Bishop Brados, or perhaps Ductus Brados, depending on how you've known him. After making the appropriate forewarnings and announcing that she wished to have an audience with him, Eveline Yasmir of the Fireflies has requested to meet with Bishop Brados in his own territory. And being gracious, being ever the gracious host, Murdoch accepted. Eveline walks to the front door of Angel Sanctum and simply knocks once and waits outside to be received.
It takes a few moments, but Murdoch will be opening the door shortly and going, please, come in, enjoy my hospitality, even in these trying times.
Trying times indeed. Eveline will step in and she'll actually remove from a sort of messenger bag on her side a packet of blood devoid of any label. And she hands it over to Murdoch. A token, a gift.
No. Well, my appreciations for the gifts. It's nice to be... It is nice to receive such a gracious guest.
Well, we have certain traditions to uphold within our own clan. I would caution you about that, though. It is a unique blend from one of my ghouls and flavored to my own particular likings. However, if you should find the use of auspex enjoyable, this shall enhance it greatly.
Oh, a worthy gift indeed. My thanks. And appreciation for the caution for the use. I shall shave it for specific endeavors.
I'm glad that you can enjoy it whenever you choose. Plus, I thought it would be rather uncouth for me to let you sample it and then find yourself under its throes.
Admittedly, that might have been. Please allow me to escort you to my meeting room.
And Eveline will follow once led, and
As Murdoch escorts to the upstairs lodge meeting room, she will notice that the location that has previously been lighted to a heavy, almost harsh degree occasionally, is now illuminated barely by a few candles around the place.
And she'll activate Auspex 1 and to get a better view of these dark surroundings, and I'm guessing, as per ST order, I should be rolling my courage.
Yes, you should, because, well, you're getting a better look around the shadows, but you're also getting a very good look at the flame.
I guess I'm going to go ahead and live dangerously on this one. And I fail. Oh, goody.
My.
Danica stops rigid in her tracks and begins to back away from the room, and her fangs sort of bare as she locks onto the candlelight. And if Murdoch happens to be standing in her way to exit out of that room and back into the stairwell, there might be a problem.
Oh, Maddox will be behind her because, after all, ladies first. But well, when you go rigid, Maddox will be giving you distance.
And she'll quickly dart out of the room and back to the middle of the stairwells uh, to get away from the flame itself. And I think I can make a self-control roll at that point.
Courage.
Courage again, okay. There we go, that's better.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll stop in the middle of the stairways and take a deep, unneeded breath as her eyes seem to be bugging out of her head for a moment, as she'll quickly deactivate Auspex and shake her head. Interesting ambiance you've chosen, Murdoch.
Oh, I find it suits my purposes.
I would see. She clears her throat and makes her way back up into the room, deactivating Auspex. It's an interesting reaction.
Indeed, it gives one some small insight to character of people. Nothing to read too much on, but a small glimpse. Would you like a drink?
No, actually, I fed before I came.
Wonderful. Meredith will go and actually offer her a chair before taking a seat himself.
And Neville will take a seat across from him.
So, what can I do for you?
Well, I just came from my haven with my pack, and Alistair and Winston were having a discussion as I was on my way out, and I thought I might stop in and say hello. And I've been informed that there is a certain degree of, let's just say, less than friendly meetings as of late between my pack and yourself.
Less than friendly? I assure you I have been the most gracious host to my understanding.
Well, the rumor has it is that you and Bishop Middlewythe are at odds with each other.
Oh, Bishop Middlewaith wanted to test me, and he found the results of his test to not be to his liking. And I found cause to teach him a lesson.
And who were you teaching a lesson to when it came to the incident with Miss Winters?
Oh. Pray tell, was there something unclear about my actions or words?
Well, I wasn't there, so I don't really know, but I've overheard the conversation that you, well, dealt with Miss Winters in a rather harsh manner, and that you deprived the sect of certain. And she gets a sarcastic look on her face. Invaluable knowledge.
Murdoch's just smiling at that, especially especially for a moment, trying to imagine his sire to consider a knowledge about finances invaluable in any shape or form. And he'll go, well, actually, Miss Winters, if that's her name, was a servant of late Mr. Burns and has been off the grid to the knowledge of most anyone of the city's Canaanites, and as such a rogue retainer. I do not think I have to stress overly much between members of my own clan how dangerous those can be. And I saw fit to remove a threat to the sect and to remind Bishop Middlewaith that in the Cardinal's presence I agreed to stay out of his business if his business stayed south of the river.
Well,
His business without any consultation or even as much as a by your leave venture straight into my area of responsibilities. And while he may indeed be under some obligation and orders by the Cardinal, I am not under the same orders, and I am not under and obliged to do the same tasks, let alone offer aid without it being requested.
well, that is certainly true. However, there were words floating about amongst Canaanites that your actions are something of a ivory nature, if you take my meaning.
And I will invite any Canaanite who has the courage to utter those words in my presence to come do so, preferably with a four-syllable word included.
Hmm.
Cardinal is very fond of those, and unlike Bishop Middlewaith, I'm not known to shirk away from challenges.
True. I'll have to admit that it does seem a bit terse of you to do it, but I can understand your reasonings if everything north of the river is, well, either by proxy or by obligation your domain.
Well, I am obligated by the Cardinal as it pertains to the central regions, and for the northern two regions, the obligations fall to Bishop Kashrimi. Now, I imagine Bishop Middlewaith might have something to say if I were to say waltz into his obligated area of duty to the sect with not so much as by your leave, and seek to take on myself the role of adjudicator in his area.
And you can see how this might be problematic when the packs underneath a certain bishop's command run into problems where they're ordered to go into another's. Specifically in this previous situation.
Oh, I have absolutely no interest in curtailing the actions of pack members or packs even. If a pack wishes to move, or pack members wish to move about the city, that is their prerogative. I take no offense to fireflies in the area I adjudicate over. I take no offense to king's bastards in the area I adjudicate over. It is a free city. I take notice when a bishop sees fit to breach previous agreement with me. Or at least agreement as I have come to understand it. And besides, I gave the rogue retainer's head to your doctors, I believe, and merely requested that he pass on my regards to the good Bishop Middlewaith with the simplest of messages that he should keep his business south of the river.
Well, then, I suppose that comes to the point of why I'm here.
Oh, please.
I wish to work out some form of accord that if we should happen to have business, that we can do so with safe conduct and not be interfered with.
Depending on the nature of the business, I usually have no objections to free canines conducting their business wherever they choose to do it.
But if, in such as this instance, where it may come to a point of you finding or taking issue, let's say, with what we're tasked to do, if we were to simply inform you that we will be in your area of observance, let's call it, and operating on orders from those above us, could that, as long as it doesn't directly subvert you, obviously, would that be sufficient enough to be able to do so without fear of reprisal?
I I wasn't aware that I had. Oh, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but are the Fireflies under the impression that I acted in revenge of something?
That seems to be the going theory at the moment.
Oh. And their assumption would be that this is revenge over the Briarville incident, is it?
I would assume so.
Oh, nothing of the sort. The 21 people murdered fall by the order of the Cardinal on Bishop Middlewaith. The Cardinal also found that those 21 people and a project that was conducted with the best interest of the sect in mind and with the blessing of the Cardinal did not constitute sufficient reason to force Bishop Middlewaith into a monumency with myself. Those deeds do not fall on the Fireflies by the adjudication of the Cardinal and by my tacit approval of my superior's words and order to such effect. The Cardinal has my word on this. Anyone who suggests I'm going against my word, well, let's just say that they are indeed offering me a grave insult.
I would assume that it would be along the same lines of insinuating that you are acting in a manner similar to the Camarilla.
Oh, yes, it would be.
Somewhere
No,
along the line. No?
my business as it pertains to Miss Winters has nothing to do with the Briarville incident that concerned the Fireflies or Bishop Middlewaite's entry with by proxy the Fireflies to Briarville. It has to do with me reminding Bishop Middlewaite of what I thought to be an established agreement between the two of us. I leave him to his business, and he conducts himself in a proper manner if he needs to conduct his business outside of the South.
Eveline sits back in her chair and crosses her arms slightly.
If I were upset with the Fireflies, if I had taken offense to your doctors being present in the area, well, I think I would have done a little bit more than handed him the head of a threat to the sect and requested him to deliver a very simple message of Bishop Middleweight. South of the river is your business.
I do wish I had been there. At least, perhaps a discussion could have been had where we could have at least gleaned some of the information that Miss Winters had.
Oh, this, and for the record, Evelyn, with the highest regard for yourself and retainers, even retainers in general, are you telling me that Bishop Middlewaith and the Fireflies in general are in an uproar over one dead mortal?
I
Or
cannot
some
speak.
money?
I cannot speak to the mental state of Bishop Muddlewife. I don't think I could, even in the best of circumstances. I don't know what his opinion of these matters are. Haven't had much dealings with Bishop Middlewife. Much at all, actually. I've met him a few times. I've conversed with him a few times. Fought against the Camarilla with him a few times. But other than that, I don't know the man. I can tell you that certain members of my pack are a little ruffled under the feathers, and they feel that we're being caught up in a dispute between two bishops.
That is an unfortunate place to be.
Which is why I'm here to try and ascertain more information to the situation and iron out any misgivings that might actually exist.
As far as I'm concerned with the Fireflies in particular, I gave those who were party to that so-called for quadruple homicide case, I gave them simple tasks to redeem themselves in my eyes, and I punished a person outside of the Fireflies more severely than any of the Fireflies that I saw in any way responsible. The Fireflies, I believe Seth, your priest, is the only one who has still a... No, even Seth has fulfilled his duties on that regard. I see no grievance on the Fireflies on the Briarwell count. I am not seeking any retribution on the Fireflies on that account. It is unfortunate that Bishop Middleweight seems to intend to use you as a blunt instrument to impose his will around the city. And it is very unfortunate that Bishop Middleweight's lack of diplomacy and etiquette is putting you in a very dangerous place.
I'm not a fan of a hands-on approach when it comes to the bishops in any Sabbat city. And this dispute that's going on, these tensions, whether they're perceived or tangible, are becoming tiresome.
Well, Bishop Middleweight has made it very clear to me that he likes to test people and throw around some very heavy quotes of Code of Milan, among others. And he is either misinformed as it comes to the supposition that I am seeking some retribution on the Fireflies based on the Briarwell, or lying of it. I was under the impression we had some agreements in place with Bishop Middleweight as it pertained to keeping our little tension, whatever there may be, to a minimum and letting ourselves deal within our own areas with no harassment or such. I even issued orders to draw my interest from South Zuster away before this little accusation that I was seeking retribution happened.
Not sure if it's necessarily accusation or speculation at this point. All I know is that for the past few weeks I've been down in my workshop, and well, every so often I hear them upstairs shouting and carrying on rather loudly.
Well, that is to be expected with the uh, shared quarters, if you will.
Sure. But it is disrupting my own studies, and I have decided that I've finally grown tired of it.
Well, you would rather that I come over and set the Fireflies straight on the issue?
As entertaining as that might be, I'm afraid it might exacerbate a few perceived slights already.
Well, for perceived slights, there are indeed a few.
I suppose.
Allow me to state this one more time to be absolutely clear on this. If any member of the Fireflies has any personal business to conduct in an area I supervise, and they don't go out of their way to inconvenience me as the adjudicator of the area, the person the Cardinal holds responsible of keeping an eye on the area. If I'm responsible of an area, then what I say goes as per the rules of conduct.
Well,
And I will grant the same credence and same respect to any pet who has specific area they have a claim and is confirmed by a bishop supervising the larger area. I will grant the same respect to bishops. If Bishop Middleweight has a particular plan for southwest of Zuster, that is his business. It's not my intent to tell him that he must adhere to my understanding of what is in the best interest of the sect. I merely expect that the people who are in the area I'm responsible of conduct themselves in a manner that takes the fact in accord.
well, that does seem simple enough.
I don't need preamble. If you're on your personal business, you're on your personal business, and that is all. If you insist on coming into my area and creating a mess, or more to the point, creating something I disapprove of, I reserve the right to take offense.
Well, Your
I
Grace, I think that I have a clear understanding now of exactly what's going on. Hopefully, I can put this all to rest back in my own domicile.
I I do invite you, Evelyn, if you don't mind me saying. If you find me to be in breach of conduct here somehow, please voice it freely now under my hospitality. Let me hear it.
I don't believe you're acting outside the code, but there is a part of me that sees this as a dispute between you and Bishop Middlewife that's getting heated. And I do think that it's getting to the point now where, from the outside looking in, it's beginning to look petty on both accounts. But at the same time, I also understand the nature of what we are, and that when someone issues a challenge in one regard or another, it can appear as weak.
And I'll point out something here, Evelyn. The fact that the Cardinal saw didn't see grave enough insult to issue a monumency against Bishop Middleweight's hope wishes doesn't mean that there wasn't issue given or an insult offered by Bishop Middleweight's actions then, nor that I have not chosen to take offense from his actions, and from what I understand, shall we say, a misstep as it pertains to an agreement. It might be just our two different worldviews, having a very particulars about the words that were said and how they are interpreted.
Evelyn sort of smiles as she sits back. Well, you've put my mind at ease, at least.
So I will reiterate once again, I have no quarrel, to my understanding, with your pack. The unfortunate situation of your pack is merely, as you stated, that you are caught between two bishops, having a, shall we say, a discussion about who has the greater authority, or whether or not their authority ought to be respected in the area they adjudicate over. You might notice that I have yet to come south to challenge Bishop Middleweight's authority.
Seems to me that you don't see the need to.
Well, at least so far, as of late, I was under the impression that we had an agreement on how we would deal with these types of things. But if Bishop Middleweight sees fit to conduct his business in south and north of the river as he sees fit, with no consultations or accordance with anyone else, perhaps he needs a heavier reminder.
Well, I hope that stays strictly between you and him.
Well, it is a nice thing to hope. Then again, I will point out to you that I am working very hard to be what one might consider an old-fashioned fiend. As in, I try not to stray out of my appointed place, if such were the case, unless I've given cause.
My sire would enjoy your company, I believe. She gets a big grin on her face from that one.
And my sire might enjoy your company because I believe you share a common path, though I have a, do forgive me, a notion of it being polite conversation for a while and then retiring to each of you, each retiring to their own projects for the rest of the evening.
Or week, depending on how ingrained we get into it.
Which isn't, by my standards, any slight intended or indeed hopefully given. I understand the draw, even if I am on a different path to experimentation.
Experimentation, yes, but not to sound too much like a rose, but it's almost an art form for me.
Well, I'll not challenge that it has its artistic merit, and I'd defy anyone to gainsay that notion. Murdoch's actually evaluating Evelyn with a very peculiar look.
I guess I'll go ahead and roll perception and empathy on that one. I really got to do something about that next downtime.
Mhm.
And one success.
Well, I'm not going to give you a lot for that, but I'll give you a little bit, since Murdoch isn't actually trying to hide the fact. He is pondering whether or not to give you some advice, and probably some advice he thinks he maybe should give, but he is, for some reason, hesitant about it.
Emeline will sit up a bit more straight in her chair and bring one leg up over the other, and resting her hands on the raised knee. You seem like you have a bit more to say, Your Grace.
I might have, but I would not go against hospitality or be seen to presume over much over another Zimis.
By all means, we cannot grow or evolve unless we have, well, forces of change being driven at us at all times.
Well, I understand the drive for a pack haven, of course. I have myself persistently, if you will, chosen to maintain my own abode as it comes to my experiments and other, merely because, well, however much you love your pack members, occasionally they have a bad habit of getting underfoot right when you're in the middle of a project.
True.
Can can you imagine being in a pack with 6 or 7 people and everybody coming over to you because, well, you're there and it's easy and convenient instead of actually having to set up an agreement to meet with you?
Well, I suppose one of the perks walking around in the nude is it keeps those more humane vampires with a sense of modesty from coming to visit you.
You would think that, wouldn't you? Says Murdoch as he takes a look at his sleeve.
Nude in a more traditional sense.
Hmm, there is that. I How shall I put it? I'll not presume to tell you or command you in any shape or form. Not my place, and you have a doctus and a bishop other than myself you should be listening to if you choose to make any drastic decisions. But I would suggest looking into, well, perhaps not on having an out to removing yourself from Pack Haven, heavens no, but how about an atelier? Something where you can dig into that art of yours and let the Pack Haven be more of a, such as it was with me and the Time Bandits. I visited almost nightly, but I retired to my own privacy for the day. It allowed one to have a little bit of extra time and not get all of the back's internal, well, noises underfoot when art for yourself or craft for myself was underway.
A thought has crossed my mind, and it has gotten me thinking whether or not I should contact Kruger to see if there are any nearby subterranean spaces that are currently an acceptable workspace, conducive to experiments such as mine.
You mean in Southwest?
Possibly.
I might actually be able to point you to a few apparently abandoned locales there. I did have the still previous Archbishop Meriwether's authority once upon a time over the southwest of Zuster to maintain as my personal little playground. So I might be able to give you a few pointers on where to look.
It would be appreciated.
Very well, I can direct you to several locales. I don't know if Bishop Middlewaite has advised you about the underground situation.
No, no, he hasn't.
Really now, that's strange.
I wouldn't blame it on him. I don't spend much time with him, as I said.
Well, of course. I was thinking more on terms of the effect. Uh, when I was overseeing the area, when some others chose to leave the city in favor of what appears now to be have been a failed crusade against New York, and before they returned from there, I was preparing to defend the city, and I did notice the severe lack of Nosferatu we currently, even to this night, have. I have this little project I refer to as sewer snakes. You know, little creations to add to the subterranean fauna. And to make certain that anybody who ventured there, especially if they were camera lovers, well, if they weren't to be running into Nosferatu and the Triple, they might as well be running into some of my, shall we say, less sophisticated creations.
Quickly made Schlacta?
Oh, not so quickly made. They provided me with an ample opportunity to experiment on different types of things. Well, let's just say Schlachter that were never intended to see. Well, Schlachter that humans were never intended to see, and those humans that might lay eyes on them would be, well, food for them.
Well,
It is an old project of mine, but there might be a few of them so below those streets.
Are they still, at least as you left them, were they loyal? Or were they just mindless?
Oh, they are what you'd call ambush predators, I imagine. They are intelligent enough to cooperate if they manage to agree upon such things, and they have had a taste of canine decay.
Are you particularly attached to them should they become hostile?
Oh no, not at all. They are there to become hostile to anyone who ventures into those areas simply for the reason that there hasn't been anyone to claim those areas that was member of a sect of our sect. They are there to make things uncomfortable for uninvited people into the city.
Well, perhaps I'll
And
look into them. Perhaps they
and
can be quote unquote tamed.
well, they are aware of our predilections, and I'll actually advise you a little further on this. It's not something you'll want to pass around too many people. They appear to be, if they're my handiwork, they will appear to be have been put together by from a lot of animals. You will find them impervious to any applications of animalism.
Now that is a feat.
Oh, not so much, for the appearance is the deceive.
Now I am intrigued.
They are fully made of humans.
This has will definitely have to anger any Nosferatu that might think otherwise.
Well, I imagine the Ivory Tower would throw the Nosferatu as their first line into those sewers, and as such it was my intention to invite anyone with animalism to make a lethal mistake in a heat of battle.
Well, that is good to know.
I thought it should be something I appraised you of if you are going to be staying in Southwest Zuster or indeed looking into locations. I can give a few locations. There is actually one abandoned mansion you might give a look to. There might be a previous occupant there, but
Nothing I shouldn't be able to handle.
well, there might be a previous occupant, but I cannot guarantee that they are there or that they have been there for a few months. I have not been responsible of that area for quite some time. I don't know if the leadership of the city took my advice on them to heart, so. And if they haven't taken that advice to heart, it's within the interest of the sect to have it checked out, and I'd imagine in your own interest, if there is nobody there, you would end up having with well, slightly run down, but in either case, a facility, if memory serves, had a tendency to have a populace around it of some of the less well-off people who had a tendency to addictions.
Hmm.
I imagine that might be something that would suit your interests.
What do you think it might be? While we're on the subject of, well, even though they aren't, animal, bestial type ghouls and creations, how easy is it for you to procure rare animals?
Rare animals are unfortunately quite difficult. There used to be a lot of break-ins into the local zoo, and if the city were better well off, some of those break-ins might be worth it. But currently, I don't think the zoo has the funds to replace the animals. Because that is one of the downsides of having the hordes of humans so terrified that they refuse to trade even with each other.
Well, I'm looking for a specific creature, usually found east, well east, Africa, Tibet, India.
Now, what would you be looking for, I wonder?
Have you ever heard of a lammergeier? It's a specific species of vulture.
Actually, why don't you give Murdoch an intelligence animal kin check?
Alright. How many dice?
Tell you in a second. Uh, 7 dice.
Say difficulty 8?
No, that'll do.
One success.
Murdoch will actually state the basic details. Something that the animal is best known of.
That would be the fact that they're a carrion bird.
Carrion bird, I imagine?
Yes, a breed of vulture. A bearded vulture, to be more precise. One of the largest, actually. They are not quite on the cusp of being threatened, but they're getting to that point. But it's a bird that, if in the hands of a very skilled flesh crafter, could be made into quite a specimen.
You have plans for a flying Schlachter, I take it?
Hmm, perhaps. Perhaps not. Perhaps just an augmented pet. I haven't really decided yet. I'll have to see what the bird is like when I get my hands on one. But I would be willing to offer payment if someone were to procure one for me.
Mm-hmm. Is it on the, shall we say, on list of the animals that the human horde would find concerning to have traveling around? Does it need to be sneaked in?
As there does not seem to be any bans on them at the moment, being, well, I don't think that there would necessarily have to be smuggled in. However, with the current situation at the airport, it might be the only, or it might be the safest option.
Oh, I'm not thinking of the airport. We do have quite extensive harbor that does need to start bringing in more things. Would you be in need of a full-grown individual, or could you? get by with a, shall we say, a handful of eggs.
Well, to be honest, a whole rookery of them would be ideal, but an adult would be the more desired of options. But if I could propagate them on my own, that would be a favor which I don't think I would be able to ever repay, something I would probably be eternally grateful for.
40K has a keen interest in the harbor at the moment. In position of the Duchess, I hesitate to give you the promise that it'll be done, but I can promise to look into the option of getting a few into the city.
And in return, I don't have much the way to offer you in terms of money, but I don't think you're interested in such things.
Money is very handy for the control of the hordes and not much else.
Yes. Perhaps when I perfect this technique, I can perhaps teach it to you. Even though I find such things distasteful, the interest of this bird will go well beyond my own personal beliefs.
Tell you what, I'll not charge you for looking into the option, but if it turns out that the 40K is successful, I will see to it that the 40K members that assisted me in this will get their reward from myself. And from you, let's do this in an easy manner, asking you to share knowledge would be a far too much to ask for such a thing. How of this? If the city, as I perceive it, has a specific need of a type of a Schlachter, I can call on you to create 5 of them for me.
I could do this. I'm getting more and more talented at perfecting them.
Indeed, and I always find it is intriguing to see the end result from 2 different minds with several. For instance, my sire was occasionally very surprised when he gave me a task to come up with a, shall we say, if he ordered me to come up with a stealthy solution to a problem, he occasionally was surprised about the actual way I went about it, successful or not. And I must agree with him that it is very good to occasionally throw anyone who might have gleaned some insight into my method of doing things, well, something very different. If I am successful in this little endeavor, I may call upon you for 5 specific Schlachter. Well, 5 Schlachter to specifications. The rest to be left to your own device.
Custom orders.
Yes.
Well, I always do love a challenge.
And as it pertains to the locations, but it's actually gone over, taken a piece of paper and writing a few details down and putting it on the table. I would consider it an equitable favor to the sect if you were to check those locations out. In any case, because it's in the sect's best interest as I see it. The
She'll
fact
look at
that you
the.
glean an advantage from it is merely a benefit for yourself from doing what is beneficial to the sect.
Evelyn takes the piece of paper and places it into the front pocket of her bag. Well then, I am glad we got to have this conversation, Your Grace.
I hope I haven't proven to be an entirely ivory in my predilections.
She doesn't even attempt to hide the chuckle at that. If I believed that you were comporting yourself as such for even a moment, I wouldn't have come bearing gifts.
Well,
Any time that anyone I've ever known were to suggest that a Zamisi had decided to go ivory in any circumstance, it would take me a bit of self-control to, well, hide my scoff at the matter.
mm, now, far be it from me to give direction, but let's call it a notion. You have so far left unmentioned the people who have been throwing that particular notion around. That is well done by your packmates, because if I hear such talk and have a name to associate it, I do have to assure you I will take offense.
I draw a line between a disgruntled Cainite simply speaking their mind and speaking out of a place of frustration and anger to actual accusation.
And indeed, between pack members, the discussion should be more free. But it might be worth noting that if I had those words thrown anywhere in my presence, or hear of them being discussed outside of a pack, I will have cause for insult. I think you'll agree.
Absolutely.
And I won't be taking it up with the cardinal or the bishop in charge. I will be taking it up with the individual. After all, it's not the pack's fault. Well, unless they... Oh, did you hear?
I hear some things, but not everything, so please indulge me.
Oh, I heard that Bishop Gashremi had for a moment barred your pack from receiving education from him.
She sort of rolls her eyes at that and places a back of her hand to her forehead. Whatever will I do?
Well, apparently the cardinal has given him order to come up with a different punishment. It appears your doctors had lied to his face and been caught doing it.
Well, I've never afforded the La Sombra as a whole having much in the way of guile. I find the Toreador seem to do much better with that sort of thing.
Well, I'll give the Luxembourg their due. They are very apt at getting people motivated, whatever the cause. Maybe occasional sidestep happens here and there. But that's why we are here, to remind them of proper conduct. And the consequences of failure in such conduct. Anyway, to end on a positive note, I think I have something that you might find intriguing.
Oh?
A moment, if you will. Murdoch will actually excuse himself away from the room for a moment. And coming back, he will be carrying a box. You know, plastic, strong box with holes punctured on the top. Come to Evelyn and open it, revealing a, in best of terms, an ugly dog. Let me introduce you to someone special.
She'll look at it.
This little runt of a litter is the only survivor so far. And she, while not the prettiest by mortal standards, is the offspring of a two, well, shall we say, battle dogs of the some of the recent, not recent. When Time Bandits were still a feature in the city, there used to be dog fighting rings, and this one is from one of those litters.
She'll look at the little creature and then look up to Murdoch. Are you implying that this animal is a revenant?
Of course not. I do apologize if I gave such notion. I am merely stating that this little thing, if given proper notion, perhaps eye of a retainer for a while, might prove to be, it should have the genetics of a proper fighter.
Is this a gift?
Yes?
Well, then it would be rude of me to not accept. She'll look down at the creature and reach her hand in the box to pick it up.
It'll actually try and bite your hand.
Feisty. And she'll allow it to bite her hand, actually.
Oh, it'll get physical. Like, not playing physical, just actually trying to rip pieces off the physical.
It's still a puppy, though, correct?
Yep, it's not anything very big or grand, but it definitely is giving you the signs with any animal can that, this thing might not be something any mortal would want anywhere near them.
She'll allow it to actually bite her to the point where it can actually draw blood, so it will actually get blood in its mouth.
Ooh. Sneaky.
And then she'll simply draw her hand away and grab it by its scruff and well, not harshly because it is still a puppy, but take it and force its head to the ground so that or to the bottom of the box rather, and hold it there until it stops, until it submits. And she'll actually
After ha-
growl at the creature and sort of bare her own fangs at it.
well, it is a puppy, so establishing dominance isn't that difficult. But it definitely portrays some of the worst qualities by mortal standards in some animals.
I think this creature needs a name. We'll have to decide on that later.
I hope it's not too uncalled of me to give one as a gift.
Well, normally they would say that giving a pet is a faux pas, but I have to say that I do rather like his tenacity.
I imagined it would take one of my lineage to understand the merit of this particular gift.
Given time, I think she could become very useful, even without any enhancements. But we'll have to start early and make sure that this spirit of hers can be directed.
Well, in that case, allow me to walk you outside. Oh, I was almost forgetting. Actually hands you a vial of blood with the code, with numbers 3 and I, with a number 3 and a small I on it. I am not aware if you've heard that there is a contagion running in the city.
I had heard. That's why I'm sticking with my own stock at the moment.
Which is very wise of you. Now, instead of sharing the results, I thought you might appreciate an opportunity to study some vitae that has suffered a contagion.
I don't actually have the facilities to research at the moment. But I appreciate the offer nonetheless.
Oh, no problem. And if you feel so inclined, I have in the main floor, not the greatest, I admit, and not necessarily to the specifications some would have, but some laboratory facilities if you wish to peruse them.
Eveline, for a moment, as she takes the puppy out of the box and places it into like the deep pocket of her coat, and she'll actually use feral whispers to make sure that it understands it needs to stay in place. Manipulation and animal kin, a difficulty of 6. So that is 3 and 2, I believe. Yes, so 5 dice. Yes, so that puppy's staying right in place.
She has understood what will happen if she doesn't.
So rather than a sort of motherly sound, she gives this very feral growl and looks directly at the puppy, and its ears go back as it shrinks, and she slips it into the pocket of her coat. I wonder if there are any laboratories within Zuster that are currently lacking any canite influence, specifically
Well,
those geared towards scientific studies of blood.
That might be a challenge. I would actually have to call an old acquaintance about that. I could, I could in any case use a second opinion from someone well established in the study of blood. So, I'll give a call to someone who might have cause to know.
Well, it seems to me that any enterprising Cainite that were to facilitate getting to the bottom and the eradication of this plague might do very well for themselves in their future with the sect.
Hmm, I will point out to you one option, though how little or much contested that area is. The university is in southwest of the city.
Currently under your sway?
Oh, southwest is the authority of Bishop Middleweight, the Blackstone in general, anything south of the river by his claim. And it's a little bit north from Lincoln.
Well then, I'll have to contact Simon then and see what I can arrange, but a few ghouls in a laboratory would be, I think, beneficial for any Zamisi in the city.
I had the same notion when I saw Angel Sanctuary established.
Perhaps this should be an in-clan endeavor. I believe you called your associate once before Cody?
Oh, yes, Cody. Well, Cody is an interesting case because he might be able to acquire the items that are needed for such a laboratory without the need of us having to, shall we say, negotiate with mortals overly much about the use or such. It would merely be a case of a question: where should such a place of plan effort be put?
Well, let's hold that until our next conversation then.
Let's do that. Besides, Cody will take some time in coming up with the answer if he can do it.
Evelyn will stand and wait to be shown out.
Well, Murdoch will escort her out and wish her the best of the evening.
She'll do very much the same, offering a slight curt bow before making her way away from Angel's sanctum and back towards the south side of Zuster. And I believe there we can call that a scene.
Yes, we can.